Hello, hello. I hope everyone is doing well. Kai Marie here, going live for this Healing Element podcast. Typically, my podcasts are pre recorded, but this one I wanted to do live, and mainly because of some of the feedback that I received from the Return of the Kings event that that I did last week. I had some wonderful guests on that really shared about the importance of Black men prioritizing their health, and also their mental health, their emotional health, their physical health, and some great conversations came out of that. And so I wanted to come to you today to talk a little bit about one thing that came out of it. So this is advice that can be useful for whether you're a Black man, Black woman, or if you're not Black at all. This is just some information that will be helpful to you if you are interested in creating spaces of healing. Or I also like to refer to it as a trust tree. So if these are things that are important to you, something that you want to establish, I have some tips that you may want to follow that will be beneficial to you. All right, so I'm going to jump in. First, I just wanted to quickly say, if you are new to the Healing Element podcast, again, my name is Kai Marie. Healing Element podcast is a weekly podcast that focuses on healing from intergenerational trauma. We also touch upon historical trauma. Makes sense, right? Us all kind of in that same type of conversation. The importance of this conversation is to begin the process to heal so that we can make sure that we're not passing on trauma and pain to the next generation. So these are important conversations to have and to be a part of. So if you want to know about past episodes that are on this podcast, please go to my website, kaimarie.com, or you can go to my YouTube channel, the Healing Element Podcast YouTube channel, and you can go there to find the episodes. Also, the episodes are available on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Working on getting on, what is the other one? Pandora, but they take a little bit of time. So those are the ones that I'm on now. So please, I hope that you go and check them out. Okay. So again, today's conversation, we're talking about how you can begin to create spaces of healing, how you can create your own trust tree, and just the process of going about of adding people to these type of spaces. So I have here my little notes that I'll be looking at just to make sure I capture everything. So if you are the person that is looking to organize this, most likely you'll be the host. So you'll be the person that will be kind of, I like to say the gatekeeper, someone that kind of monitors the conversations that are going on and monitors the people that come in the group. So first and foremost, it's important for that person to have done some healing work, or if you want to say some shadow work, that they have begun that journey themselves. And it's not that you have arrived. None of us have arrived, but you are in a space in which you know yourself pretty well. And so, again, we are continuously on this journey of self-discovery. But if you are going to host, it is important that you know who you are, know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Just have a very good sense of self, a sense of awareness. That will be extremely beneficial when you have to make decisions, maybe allowing someone in to this trust tree or healing space of healing. And also if you have to make decisions about those tough conversations that you may have to have with someone, and you want to just be able to know, like, okay, am I kind of avoiding having this conversation because of my own insecurities or my own issues? So that's why it's so important for you to first that you're doing your own self work. That will be extremely helpful for you as you start to facilitate these type of spaces, and also as you bring people on board. It will just be overall helpful for you. The other one is when you are looking to bring people on board. And these you can kind of play with the order on these two things. So one, I want to say when you're looking to bring people on board, so these are people that are going to hold space with you. My recommendation is before you just go out and say, oh, we kind of vibe and I think that this will work. I recommend first just observing the person's behavior. Have some conversations with them and see where they are in their healing process. How well do they know themselves? And you're not looking for protection, but you are looking to create safe spaces. You want to make sure that the people that are showing up, that you're going to have an energy of healing, and everyone is really there for the purpose of healing. You don't want people to kind of come into these spaces to gather information about folks so that that way they can then go and spread rumors and really tear down somebody else's reputation. So you want to make sure that you're really observing people to see how they interact, how they engage with other people when they come to you with issues or concerns. If they do that, how do they describe what's going on? Do they ever take ownership of what's going on? Are they always the victim in the situation? So it does take time, and I recommend taking your time with building out a healing circle because you want to take a moment to really get to know someone. And I'll say this, just because someone is a friend or family member, it doesn't mean that they necessarily should be in your healing circle, right? So these are just things that you want to weigh in when you're making those type of decisions. The other part to this is once you have people that are coming in, and maybe you even have your core group of folks that maybe if you are unavailable to really host, that you depend on them. That's even more important for you to really know, have close relationships with the people and making sure that they're doing the healing work, making sure they're doing the shadow work. So the important thing is when you have your core group of people, so when you come together, you want to make sure that you lay the ground rules. What are the ground rules for this group that you're creating? What are these agreements that you're going to make? What are these commitments that you're going to make to make sure that whatever is discussed in this group stays in this group? Now, if someone is, if there's like substance use or something that kind of someone is going through something that is outside of the scope of the people that are in this group, you need to also set the ground rules for that. Right. So if someone is, there's a suicide attempt or something like that, or there's someone in depression, anything like that obviously requires someone of expertise that is not in that group. I do recommend having that also in your ground rules, that if something falls outside the scope of what the group is able to handle, that you will have a resource for people to go to receive the help that they need. It doesn't mean that they have to leave the group, but it does help that they'll have someone that they can go to that can really address the specific issues that they are currently facing. So laying the ground rules. So part of laying the ground rules, one, of course, you want to create an environment of trust, of honesty, truthfulness. Even for the person that's the host, you want people to be honest with you, right? You want people to say, listen, you didn't keep your commitment about this. You didn't keep your commitment about that. So this trust tree or this healing circle is also about accountability. And this is how you grow. It's not, I don't recommend, I should say it that way. I don't recommend it being a space where you just kind of vent, let out your frustrations, and then it's kind of like a kumbaya, everyone get along, everyone hold hands. This space should be about healing and also about growth. And sometimes growth is uncomfortable. And you may have people that want to walk away from the experience, from the healing circle, from the trust tree. And so that's why it's so important to really work with your core group to really lay those foundation. What are the key principles if someone decides to walk away from the group? How often do we reach out to them? Do we reach out to them? If after so many days, do we consider that they have left the group? Are they able to come back? Are they able to come back with some type of stipulation? So these are all things to think about when you are beginning to organize your group. And what this does, it does help lay a proper foundation. And it also makes sure that the people that are in the group are serious about doing the work. Because the last thing you want to do is invest all your time and energy into something and people are not serious about it. People aren't really committed to it. So you want to make sure that there is accountability. And that's why it's so important to have your key principles and these guidelines that you follow in case someone leaves, maybe the host leaves. And so what happens if that occurs? So these are all things that are important to have in place. And another reason why you want to do that, as I said, you have that firm foundation, and that foundation has to be strong because you're going to be building on top of that. Sorry, that was a ladybug. I thought it was a bee. So those are extremely important. As I said, you want to allow for spaces for if people are frustrated, if they want to vent, if they're angry, you want to be able to allow space for that, but just not to have that space of this raw emotion, but what happens after that? Are there going to be steps? Is there going to be a dialogue? So how do we begin to solve some problems? For example, if people are, you have someone who is coming and saying, listen, my workplace is extremely toxic, and this is what's going on in my workplace, and they vent and they let it out. Then time to have the conversation. Okay, we understand that you're frustrated about your workplace. Maybe you deserve a promotion. You're getting a promotion. Let's start to go through and discover what we can begin to do to help get you in a better place. Another part to this too, so if someone, again, using this workplace as an example, if you do have someone who's in the workplace and they're kind of venting, letting out their frustration, sometimes you have to dig deeper and say, okay, is it really the external folks that are causing the problem, or is it internal, right? So the person that's frustrated and angry about the job, is this some issues that they have going on inside of them that is causing certain outcomes in their environment? So that's why this work is so important, and it's so important for the host to also do their own work and continue to do their work, because sometimes when someone tells you a story, when you've been on this path for a while, you can say, oh, I know what this is. This is an issue of validation. It has nothing to do with people around you. And why do I say that? I say that because if that person leaves that job and goes to another job and they have validation issues, guess what's going to happen? Those issues are going to follow them wherever they go. So it's so important that when you are creating these type of circles and trust tree, that your goal is always to get to the root of the problem. Once you get to the root of the problem, then that will definitely help the people that are in this group that you've provided. Because again, it is about healing and it's about growth. And we all know that sometimes those things can be very challenging. So another thing, when you are starting up your trust tree or your healing circle, you also want to make sure that you have your scheduled times. And these are times that everyone agrees upon, that they will come, meet, gather. Maybe there's assignments that you are provided as the host, or maybe someone, however you want to organize that, maybe each week or however that would work, someone provides a certain type of assignment that must be completed. Maybe it's journaling, maybe watch this movie, maybe read this book and give your reaction to different excerpts from the book. So these are all things, again, to help with your growth, and also make sure that everyone is held accountable for what they're supposed to bring into this group of healing. Right. So you said that. And the other thing too is when you have your healing group, you want to make sure that you're also providing resources. So again, going back to what are books that people can read? How can they grow? How can they empower themselves? This is all a part of the work that needs to be done. And like I said, it's not always easy. It can be very challenging, but it's definitely important. And we all need those type of support systems. And I'll say this, and someone had mentioned this on the, when I did the men's event last week, they said, when you start to change for the better and you start to grow, that can definitely impact the relationships around you. And you may find that the people that you used to hang out with, you can't hang out with anymore. Either you don't want to hang out with them anymore, or they don't want to hang out with you anymore. So creating these type of circles are so critical for people who are on that journey of beginning to really transform their lives, because many times it can feel very lonely and you can find yourself being very distant from friends and family. And when that happens, what the easiest thing to do is to revert back to the old behaviors that you had, because who wants to live a life alone, right? It's so important to have those support systems. So creating these healing circles, creating these trust tree, it's so important, especially people that are early on in their healing journey, so that they know who they can go to. And also another thing, if you are a host or just in creating one of these healing circles, it also is so important to make sure that you set up proper boundaries. So if you are the host or a person that has some type of role within the trust tree or within the healing circle, you want to make sure that you set up your proper boundaries. So you may not want people calling you at all hours of the night. Every time they're going through something, someone's calling you to try to fix a problem. So that's part of your principles that you're setting up. These are the hours that I am available. If it's after these hours, then this is the person that you call, or whatever you're going through will have to wait until we meet again, because you have to make sure that you're setting up those proper boundaries. Because one thing you want to make sure is that you're not going to burn out. You don't want to burn yourself out trying to hold space for others to heal. So setting up those proper boundaries is very important, very critical. Sorry, I'm so scared of bees. So it's very important that that you set up also those boundaries as well. So I recommend first doing your own work, beginning to work on yourself, getting to a place where you really begin to know yourself. You can call out your own BS, right? When you can say, okay, I'm going to own that. That's totally my bad. That's totally my fault. That is so important for the person that's the host and that's kind of guiding this. And then as you start to bring people on board, just first observe them, observe how they communicate to you, observe how they show up in their own lives, and all that can determine what role, if any, they should have in the group. And then once you have your core group, really beginning to lay the groundwork of your core principles. Again, that's setting up those boundaries to make sure that people that are in the trust tree, that everyone respects each other's boundaries, and also outside of it. So if people are reaching out to you after the meeting, is that appropriate? So having all of those discussions, allowing people to vent, share raw emotion, making sure that there's a space that is supportive to that. And but also coming with solutions. So it's not just a venting session, but also, okay, so now what do we do to begin to remedy this issue? And it's steps, right? It's incremental steps. It's not saying that after that person vents, the problem will be solved. It could be a continuous working issue that has to be addressed, which is fine. Again, another core principle, if there is someone in the group that is suffering for substance use or is clinically depressed, you want to make sure that they are getting the assistance that they need. If it is outside of the scope of the trust tree, of this healing space or healing circle, you want to make sure that you connect them to the correct people. And last but not least, also make sure that you're always providing the people that are in your trust tree with the resources that they need, and that you guys share your experiences and really try to be transparent as possible, because this is all about healing. And the people that are in this shared experience, the goal is that they're open and honest, and that you are growing together, and everything that is discussed stays within the trust tree, unless it falls outside, like I said, where somebody really needs help from a clinician or something along those lines. So you want to be mindful of that as well. I did come across an outline of how you can set up your own healing circle trust tree. So I will provide that in the description box. I hope you found this information helpful. Please make sure to leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. If there's other topics that you would like me to cover, please let me know. One last bit, you might say, so how does this fit into healing and that whole intergenerational trauma healing? That could be a topic that could be covered during your healing circle. But I will say this, people that are in these healing circles, because you are working on yourself, you're working on your own healing, that automatically will impact the other people that come into your life. right? So if you have children, if you're raising maybe your nieces or nephews or what have you, this is an experience that they'll be able to begin to see a change in you. And that will definitely change how you show up in the world and your relationship with them. So I just encourage you all to take a look at the information that I'm going to provide, that how you can set up your own trust tree or your own healing circle. I hope it's helpful. And again, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Please like and share if this resonates with you. And also leave me a comment. And I will check in with you guys soon. And remember, healing is a journey. Talk to you guys later.